I'm joined by Jack Inglis, the Chief Executive Officer of AIMA. Jack, thank you so much for being with us and for talking to me. Let's start with what AIMA is and what your role is in the alternative investment industry.
Yes, so AIMA is a membership organisation, and we were set up to pursue activities for the mutual and collective benefit of the alternative investment funds industry. We have 2,000 members, over 60 countries, so members are all around the world and actually offices all around the world. And our principal goal is one of advocacy, communication and education. And we pursue that through a dedicated program of engagement, of events, of publication and guidance for our members. Because running a alternative investment firm, it's really quite a complex business, but especially around the areas of regulation. And we're here to help, really through providing learning, through our specialist input, and also so that our members can learn from each other.
Now, the title of our programme is Holding Strong. Do you think that's a fair assessment of how alternatives are faring right now?
I think it is, yes. I mean, performance from alternative investment funds is very good. They're meeting their investor requirements for returns. And investors are committing even more capital to alternative investment funds. And particularly at the moment, after more than a decade of bull markets in public equities and public bonds, I think what investors are noting is that they're actually more vulnerable and at risk of reversal. So they're choosing alternatives to diversify away from that risk and to seek out investments that are less correlated to potentially the ills that might beset traditional investment styles in public equity and bond markets.
And why is this sort of programme important? Why should people be watching a programme on alternative investments?
Well, I mean, despite being around for a very long time, alternative investments, that is, I think they're still largely not very well understood. So what I'm hoping with this programme is that we can provide a lot more clarity on what alternative investments are and why they should form a very core part of modern investment portfolios, not as a competitor for it, but as a complement to traditional investing wisdom.
Well, let's dive into some of the alternative investments. So talking about private equity, talking about hedge funds, public perception on those two areas can be quite mixed. Do you think they deserve the reputation they have?
Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. It is quite mixed, and I do acknowledge that. But I really do feel that's down to a lack of complete understanding of what they're all about. I mean, some people think that that alternative investments are not regulated, but they are, just like every other asset management firm in the world. Some people think of them as more risky, but they're not. Hedge funds, for example, display less volatility than investments in public equity markets. And actually, if you look at periods of market downturns, hedge funds show a lot more resilience to those downturns than traditional equity funds, let's say. And then for private asset firms, private equity, private credit, some people do have suspicions about the changes they might bring to bear on their portfolio companies. But in fact, what they're doing is providing much needed growth capital, which is often unavailable elsewhere, to help companies grow, help companies become much more successful. And I see one of the roles of AIMA is to help people understand these investments a lot more and get this out to a wider audience.
What are your expectations for the future for alternative investments?
Well, I'm extremely positive. At the moment, the global funds industry is about $100 trillion, a little bit more. And the alternatives component of that is about 15% currently. And I think that's got scope to increase to 20% within the next decade, if not sooner. Now, most institutional investors currently own alternatives in their portfolios. So I think some of the real growth can come from private wealth and indeed even retail channels as products are made more available to them and more understandable to them. Now, one of the fastest growing sectors at the moment is private credit. And I think the demand for yield when interest rates are so low, is going to continue to make them stand out and very popular with investors. And for hedge funds, they really are at the cutting edge of the use of technology and data analytics, which I think position them extremely well as compared to traditional investing styles to take advantage of this sort of data-rich and data-heavy world that we live in. So I think they are going to stand out as well for the use of technology. And then finally, I can't leave without talking about ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and sustainability issues. And I would say that the alternative investment world really do get that at the moment. And I think they're very well positioned to be at the forefront of this rapidly developing investment theme and take advantage of the new opportunities as they present themselves within that world.
Jack Inglis, CEO of AIMA, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Belle.